Hello and welcome to Fourth Coach Conversations, a series brought to you by D1Baseball.com. Let me start by saying a special thank you to our presenting sponsor, Netting Professionals. Netting Pros specializes in the design, fabrication, and installation of custom netting for college baseball programs all around the country. Next time your field or facility needs something new, make sure to check out Netting Professionals. These people at Netting Pros are awesome, great people, great products. They love our sport. Want to encourage everyone to support them. So I am the host, Michael Patrick Rooney. I am an alum. I am a former fourth coach, and I am super excited. This is episode 14. And I will speak for myself only. These podcasts, these conversations on Sunday nights have been an absolute blast. They go super, super quickly. I'm going to just very briefly tell everyone what we're doing. For anyone that's not tuned in before, in baseball, college baseball, we have a really unique deal where the fourth coach on the staff is a volunteer, not paid by the school. These guys don't get benefits from their schools. They're not allowed to off-campus recruit. I just learned recently the school's not even allowed to pay for them to go to coaching conventions like the ABCA, which is maybe the biggest joke of all. But anyway, it's if you want to cut your teeth in college baseball, you got to really want it. The hardships for these guys and having to, figure out the finances, and still they're coaching at a very high level, coaching Division I athletes. So I thought this would be a really cool way to get to know these guys. This is the lifeblood of our profession, the up-and-comers in the coaching profession in college baseball, and it has not disappointed. These conversations have been super, super fun. So, boys, I'm going to go around the horn as you're looking at the pictures, just as I am. And let me start here. Let's just jump right into it. This is going to go really quickly. What I want you to do to start is just bullet point your resume for me. So where'd you grow up? Where'd you play? Where have you coached so far? Just take me, just kind of a bullet point me around your resume. And Derek, and make sure you introduce yourself too. Give us your name and where you are. So DP, why don't you kick us off?
All right. My name is Derek Parola. I coach at Illinois State. I grew up in Mundelein, Illinois, which is a Chicago suburb about 30 minutes north. I played at Illinois State. My first coaching stop was at University of Illinois Springfield, which is a D2, obviously in Springfield, Illinois. I was there for about 6 months. The volley job opened up at Illinois State last February. Coach Holm called me, and I decided to come back, and thankfully I did. And then I'm still here now.
Love it. All right. So DP, I got some follow-up questions for you. So there's this really cool coaching tree for Illinois State to me. So you had Coach Kingston and his staff, then Coach Durkak, who's now at Coach Durkak's at USF, right? He was part of that staff that went to a super regional last year. Yeah, and then you got to play for Steve Holm in the final year. So were you recruited by Coach Kingston and his staff, and then they had gone to South Florida when you were getting ready to enroll, or you were part of Coach Kingston's program for a little bit?
No, so I never played under Coach Kingston. I got recruited by Coach Kingston. I actually got recruited late my senior year. So I was committed under him for about, I want to say, a month. And then he called me and said he's going down to USF. And then Coach Durkak luckily got the job, played under him for 4 years. And then Coach Holm got the job in 2019. I played under him for 1.
Awesome. And so, Paul DeYoung, who's had an incredible career, not a great year last year, but obviously an incredible career. You were with him for 1 year. Is that right?
Yeah. So Paul was here my freshman year that I redshirted, and he's from Antioch, Illinois, which is about 20 minutes from where I'm from. So we kind of had a little bonding point just because we were from the same conference in high school. So he kind of took me under his wing freshman year and kind of showed me the ropes a little bit and kind of taught me some things on hitting. It didn't translate very well when I played, but he did give me some pretty good knowledge when I was practicing. So
awesome. Was Paul DeYoung a really good player drafted as a junior, or what was he a 4th-year player when he left, or a 3rd-year player?
So Paul redshirted his freshman year. He was a walk-on actually.
Wow.
He walked on, redshirted, and then kind of had a breakout year as a freshman a little bit, and then went to the Northwoods, had another good year, and then obviously his sophomore and junior years, he hit pretty well. So
I'll say that's awesome. All right, so your 5th-year senior year, Coach Holm takes over, who I think is amazing. I mean, you've gotten to experience 3 really good coaches, 3 really good baseball guys. So in 2019, you guys go to Louisville, which is a team that ends up in the Final Four. I mean, they go to Omaha and do damage, and you guys nearly take them down. So if I remember correctly, you guys win your first game against Indiana. You guys beat Reed Detmers in the 1-0-1-0 game. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
What do you remember about that game?
I just remember, so we kind of went in there not expecting much. We knew we had a chance just because of how good offensively we were. Matt Walker was stepping on the mound that day, and when he was on, he could beat anyone in the country. And that was one of the games that I think he threw 135 pitches and threw a 9-inning, gave up, what was it, 1 or 2 runs. And then the biggest thing I remember from that game is that Jeremy Gaines, he was a role player for us a little bit. He worked hard every single day in practice, never complained. He gets a pinch hit at bat, and I forgot exactly what inning it was, with a runner on first base and 2 outs, and he hits a double down the line to score and put us up. And it was just like, that was kind of culmination of our season. It's like we had a bunch of guys that just bought into the process. He never complained one time, got his opportunity, and then obviously had the biggest hit of Illinois State's probably in the last 20 years.
That's awesome. Was Walker your guys' number 1 and you guys pitched off, or he was your number 2, but just a very high upside guy?
Number 2, we had Brent Hedrick, who went 7-0 in the Valley as our ace. He struck out Indiana 15 times in that first game there.
Wow.
And then obviously Matt Walker came in and did something similar against Louisville.
Side note, Illinois State has super awesome uniforms. The Redbird deal, count me in on that. Yeah. Very good. Excellent. All right, moving along. Bridge, go ahead.
Yeah, well, my name's Justin Bridgman. I'm from Reno, Nevada. I played college baseball at the University of Nevada for 4 years. I was fortunate enough to play for 2 really good coaches, and Jay Johnson and TJ Bruce. I was lucky. I got drafted by the Tampa Bay Rays back in 2017 and played a couple of seasons in the minor leagues, which was a really good experience for me. And then when I decided to start my coaching career, I went down and I was a graduate assistant at the University of Arizona during the COVID season, but it was still a really good experience. And now this is my second year at Cal Poly under Coach Lee, and I'm in a really, really good spot right now.
See, now, Justin, the thing that's confusing for you is every coach you've played for or been around is actually awesome at this. When that, just so you're clear, that's actually not the case. Like, not every coach is TJ Bruce or Jay Johnson or Larry Lee. And then the Rays thing. So let's focus on the 3 guys that you've been around: TJ Bruce, Jay Johnson, Larry Lee. If I said to you, what do the 3 of them, I think of them very differently, except for they're all awesome. But what's something that the 3 of them have in common?
I think it's the winning culture. All of them have developed a winning culture in a different way. Like, there's something about each one of them but at the end goal that's all the same, And I think, like, Coach Johnson, who I first played for, it's like he was really, really, he has an elite offensive mind. He's, really on the forefront of the offensive game. He's trying to be very, very disciplined at the plate and different things like that. And that's how we were really successful. And then TJ came in, and, TJ's built a culture at Nevada for how long he's been there now. Is like, they're very competitive. They're tough, and they'll go and they'll like play anybody. They'll schedule whoever. Like, I think last year they went to Texas, who was like number 2 in the country, and they'll go to Oregon State and things like that. And that builds, belief in their players, and eventually that, that'll pay off down the line. And then now with Coach Lee, it's like he's been, I don't know how long exactly he's been here now, but it's like since 2010, they finished in the top 4 of the Big West every single year. And the Big West is a difficult conference, so it's like that just shows what he's been able to do here. And I guess that's the easy answer of like, well, they're all very successful, but it's like there's different ways that they do it, and the detail that they go about things and things like that all gets them to the same position to have a chance to be successful each and every night.
Yeah. So Bridge, so your first 2 years are with Jay, and then TJ
Yep.
comes in. What was the hardest part of the transition for you personally as a player, going from Jay's program to TJ's program?
It was just like the different philosophies. Jay was very, very big on the offensive side of the ball, and we were trying to really outscore people. TJ
Mhm.
came in, and his background, he's from spent a lot of years at UCLA under Coach Savage, and they are very pitching and defense, and so bringing in that kind of mentality, it was good change for me. I was able to be successful in that system as well, and so it was like that difference, I think, is probably what it was. It was kind of a shock to some of us who had been there for a couple of years. Like, okay, now we're making this change, but it was beneficial for a lot of guys to be able to, see both sides, but able to take things from the previous staff and use it in the new staff and things like that. And so, it was a good transition.
Yeah. So the Mountain West has some really extreme environments. And I think one of the most underrated programs in the country is Air Force. I think Coach Kaz does an unbelievable job. I've never been there, but that I perceive that as the most extreme offensive environment. Is that true, or is Air Force not the best hitting environment in the league?
It is 100. It might be the best in the country. I mean, it's the elevation, obviously number one, and the conditions. Like it can get really cold there. It can get windy, and they're so good at playing in that environment that I think just who they are also adds an element to the actual dimensions of the park, where it's like 300 feet to right field with this tall wall, and the mountains are right behind home plate, and it's just like the wind blows over, and some games are 19 to 18, and that's just Friday night.
I picture travel day to Air Force and the hitters show up 2 hours early for the bus, and the pitchers are twisting ankles. So I might not
Yeah,
be able
yeah,
to make the
exactly.
trip.
Yeah, if
That's
you
awesome.
miss that start, you're happy
Oh,
about that.
gosh, and if you go over 5 at Air Force, you're ready to jump off the clubhouse roof. I mean,
Yeah,
come
because
oh
you're gonna
god.
end up getting 7 at bats, so you're gonna have to go
Oh,
up there again.
oh my gosh, that's awesome. Very cool. Rhino, go ahead.
So I'm from Punxsutawney,
Well,
Pennsylvania.
give us your name, Rhino. I'm the only one that
Oh,
knows you.
my name's Ryan Sloniger. I'm from Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. I ended up playing at Penn State University, and then 19 after my senior season, I got drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays. Luckily, I was able to play 3 seasons in the Blue Jays organization. Just ended up out of pro ball just this past June. Ended up here at Kent, starting at Kent as actually director of player development in August, and just moved into our volunteer assistant role just a few weeks ago.
Love it. Hey, so Rhino, if I have it right, you were a left-handed hitting catcher in college, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so now I would describe that as outstanding parenting. I mean, like that's really well done right there. Like we are really leaning into quality
Yeah.
profiles right there. Tell me about that. How did left-handed hitting and catcher was your dad a baseball guy, or how did that come about?
Yeah, my dad played and stuff, and he was a catcher, so that's kind of why I wanted to catch. The left-handed thing came from my grandpa, who was left-handed. So the first time I picked up a bat, I ended up picking it up left-handed. My dad wasn't changing that, so I'm very happy that he didn't change that. Obviously, um, definitely enjoyed being able to be a left-handed hitting catcher. Helped me out a little bit along the way.
That's awesome. Hey, tell me about your experience with the Blue Jays. What were a couple of the things that were obviously minor league baseball is so different from college baseball, but there's so many resources as far as player
hmm
development goes. And so yeah, I don't want to lead the witness here. Tell me about some of your observations with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, so the Blue Jays are definitely very new school. There's a lot of analytics and stuff that are involved in everything that we would do. All of our meetings, bullpens that I'd catch, everything. We usually were breaking down a lot of numbers and stuff after, and felt like as a catcher, we kind of really had to be an extension of that because usually we were getting asked about that immediately after the pen. We're going and looking right at the data with the pitchers, and it was a big part of everything we did, offensively, defensively, and definitely helped me a lot, kind of understand both myself as a hitter, catcher, everything, and also help me understand the guys I was catching. Um, and it also taught me a lot about like a lot of what I do with our catchers here at Kent. A lot of the stuff I was able to take away from them because they did a great job catching wise with all through the system. And I definitely learned a ton from those guys.
So what you just described there, what I pictured is you guys, there's a bullpen session, and then there's all this, they're tracking
hmm
everything, measuring everything. And then is there like a debrief after the bullpen, like some of the analytics people are asking you as the catcher questions that complement the analytics, or what does that look like kind of post bullpen?
Yeah, so right after the bullpen, we'd obviously have all our pitching coaches and all that, and then there'd always be usually one of the analytics guys, one of the pitching development guys was right there at each mound with the Rapsodo, watching on the iPad the whole time. And immediately after, we would step off to the side, another catcher and pitcher would jump in, and we'd break it all down. They'd kind of be asking us what we saw based off the numbers, based off each pitch. So we had to really, as catchers, really understand a lot of that stuff and kind of get up to speed fast. And definitely was a little debrief, 5-10 minutes, break it all down for them, and then get ready to catch the next guy.
I love it. So here's another question. I didn't get to coach or play really in an analytics era. Well, not really, like not at all. And so I'm curious about this. Like the concept reminds me of like you're a teacher, like you have a teacher teaching calculus, and some of the students are like on it. Other students are like kind of wobbly. Other students are completely lost. So I like that's how I picture analytics for players. Like some players are just like totally vibing with it. Other guys are like super confused. Are there a lot of conversations in minor league clubhouses or hotels, players trying to help each other disseminate all this stuff?
Yeah, especially with us, like the Blue Jays have a ton of Latin guys, and a ton of Latin catchers. So that's where we really had to learn how to communicate and just kind of all of us make sure we're on the same page, because sometimes we'd have some Latin guys that didn't really speak great English, and we'd have to be able to translate what they're trying to tell that pitcher. So we wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. We definitely had to kind of understand some things. We had to do our research and stuff. And even I had some pitchers and stuff that I caught back at Penn State or in pro ball and stuff that understood things even a little more than I did, that I would bounce some questions off of if I wasn't sure about something. And because we definitely were expected to be an extension of that pitching staff, like of the pitching staff. And so we had to have a real like true understanding. So we definitely had to talk a lot about it.
Oh, that's awesome. How good did your Spanish get?
Better than it is now. Once I haven't used it for a little while, it's definitely not as great, but it was good enough. I could have enough conversations.
Yeah, un poco. That's it.
Yeah.
Well done. Very good. Paul, go ahead.
Hey, I'm Paul Benoit. I am the current volunteer at Towson University, and I guess if it's a bullet point sort of background, I had a really different journey compared to a lot of guys in this game. I played in high school and I played my first year at Carnegie Mellon University, but I went to college, not really for baseball. I went there as a robotics major. So I did robotics and mechanical engineering, and then I graduated with a degree in mechatronics engineering, which is a mesh between automation, computer engineering, software development, and mechanical engineering. So I had, that experience, but while I was in college, and this was something I had wanted to do since the third grade. I wanted to be an engineer, but when I was in college, I realized I don't. It sucks. So I decided to be a baseball coach. Crazy enough. I coached a little bit for my high school in Atlanta. I went to St. Pius X, and I coached some travel ball teams in the area. But I really got my first break at Post University in Connecticut during the COVID year, and this was the year after I graduated. And I get 13 games in, and then bang, our season gets ended, and which is just it's crazy thing altogether. But I started in D2. I went to Ottawa in Kansas, which is an NAIA school. We had a lot of success there. We went to a regional. We won the conference championship. I was also an adjunct professor of mathematics, so I was able to do multiple roles there. And this past August, I was brought on at Towson. So I do a lot of infield work. I do a lot of base running work, and I do a lot of analytical work.
Gosh, I love it. So Paul, let me ask you this. Is engineering running your family, or is it like what kind of got you on the road to engineering for starters?
I saw a movie in the third grade called Meet the Robinsons, which is a Pixar movie that it resonated with me. I was like, I want to do that. I want to be an inventor. I want to create products. I want to have something in my mind and then be able to put it out. And so I had that opportunity to do that twice in college, which was awesome. We made a pumpkin launcher catapult. We ended up winning the competition that we entered in. I think we launched a pumpkin something like 350, 400 feet. It was awesome. And then we created a automatic, our senior design project, our capstone project was a automatic squirrel turret. So it would track squirrels in your garden, and it was an automatic turret. So it would shoot them with 40 PSI of water when they got too close to your bird feeders. So it was, those things were really cool, but it wasn't really my passion. So while I think I'm pretty good at coding, I'm pretty good at, anything engineering wise, I wasn't happy. And so I'm a lot happier. I'm the happiest I've ever been. Towson's been incredible, unbelievable.
That's awesome. All right, so let me ask you this question because your background, like you said, is so unique. So let me preface it with this. So last summer you coached a summer league team that did really, really well. If I read that correctly, is that right?
Yeah, we ended up winning the regular season championship. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so here's my question. So obviously your engineering background is crazy, impressive. The obvious assumption would be that, okay, somebody with your background and your, intellectual capacity, you're going to be drawn to the analytics and stuff like that. But there's got to be other skills that you developed as an engineer that translate to building a baseball team or running a baseball program. So, and hey, maybe the answer is just analytics, but I'm curious, what are the other things that translate from your, pretty exceptional engineering background?
For sure. I think the biggest thing is that a lot of people have this misconception about engineering that like it's one person doing a bunch of work and doing a lot of testing design. You're on a team with a whole bunch of people. Let's say like the 6 of us are designing an airplane. I might have, or you might have the nose cap of the plane, and 2 of you guys might be on the wings and 1 of you guys might be on the engines. And I might get stuck with the job of designing all the screws that fit inside the bathroom doors inside the airplane. So I'm spending 40 hours a week in front of the computer optimizing these screws. And then we all come together at the end and we build a finished product, but it's all about working within a team. So I took that approach, and it's about a lot of different mindsets too. I took that approach in coaching the summer league team that I had. I was the head coach and I made my own staffing decisions. I ended up hiring on 9 different assistants, but they weren't all baseball guys. 4 of them were baseball guys, and the rest like did different things. One of them was a social media person. Some of them were analysts and all. I had somebody interview for the job actually, and I asked him, "Oh, so did you play baseball?" And he said, "Yeah." And I asked him, "What position did you play?" And he said, "Oh, I played hitter." And so that kind of told me immediately, yeah, you're probably not exactly a baseball guy.
That's right.
But he brought in, he was a predictive modeling guy. And I'm familiar with statistical models and predictive models and all that. And so we brought him in, and he developed some predictive models for success for us. And so we did a lot of experimentation over the summer. But I mean, and I credit to the players, because the players sort of bared with us with all of it going on. And I mean, we walloped some opponents, not to, get too high and mighty or anything, but I think we ended up the season something like 17-4. But a lot of it was being in the office or in our office every morning and talking with people that weren't necessarily baseball people, and they would have completely different ideas that I had never even thought of before. And I valued that more than even some of the baseball stuff that we did.
Oh, that's so cool. Really good. Very good. Cool. All right, Robbie, I'm coming to you, and don't forget to introduce yourself. But before you do, I want to say congratulations. Robbie is going to be a Fourth Coach alumnus. In the next 2 weeks, he's going to get promoted to a paid position, which is awesome. But go ahead, Robbie, introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm Robbie Dombrowski, obviously here at the University of Evansville. My story, just being up front with you guys, I was not a Division I guy or a pro guy, and Coach Paul is the smartest person I've ever heard speak, so I'm not anything like any of these other guys. But I played D3 baseball at a little school called St. Norbert College in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Go Pack and go Green Knights. And so really, as kind of an undergifted athlete, I fell in love with learning about baseball, and that's kind of where, I guess, being a Division III athlete. I mean, if you guys saw me try to run or do anything athletic, you would understand why I was a Division III player. But learning about, the fundamentals of the game was something that I had to do, being relatively under-talented. And I just fell in love with the sport. And so when I graduated, I had an opportunity to be a GA at a little school called Belhaven University in Mississippi. And the head coach there was Hill Denson. He's a Mississippi legend. Southern Miss actually named the field after him. And he was just an unbelievable guy to work for. And moving from the cold climate of Wisconsin down to Mississippi was a huge culture shock for me. But to have people like Hill Denson take me into their family and, make the old Yankee feel at home in Mississippi was awesome for me. And I learned so much from him. I have to tell you guys, my biggest responsibilities there, I was the hitting coach technically, but Hill would always say this clubhouse has to have a family atmosphere. So one of my responsibilities was to feed the stray cats. So by the end of the year, every stray cat in Jackson, Mississippi found their home in Smithville Stadium, because Hill made sure that I kept those cats fed. Because he would always say that, and I think he was half joking, but he wanted that clubhouse to be like a family, and I always liked that. So yeah, Hill Denson, I worked for him for 1 year, and then he retired, which was heartbreaking for me. Like, he was awesome. He took me in to a place that I had never been to before, and so I was almost done with my master's and was thinking, like, I'm a ways off here. This is not for me. And I was pretty much fed up with coaching. I was gonna get out of the game. And a coach that I played for at St. Norbert called me up and said, "Look, you were born for this. You're one of the best leaders that I've ever had. We're not letting you get off the hook that easily." So at a point where I was kind of ready to move home and get a 9-to-5, this guy said, "Look, you can't give up on it that easily." And around the same time, I had met Coach Jordan Bischel at the convention, ABCA convention. And he's a fellow St. Norbert Green Knight himself. So he, for whatever reason, gave up like an hour of his time at this convention. And I'm a 22-year-old kid thinking, like, I'm wasting this guy's time. He's this big Division I coach. But for whatever reason, he took me in and talked to me. And he said, "You know what you need to do is you need to go coach summer ball." That's kind of how I got my name out there as a D3 guy. Just go do it. And so, of course, this is in February, and the only job open was this job in Canada in the Western Canadian Baseball League. And I ended up taking this job in Yorkton, Saskatchewan, and we were 6-50 that summer, which is on record the worst record of any collegiate summer baseball team ever in the history of history. So here I am, 6-50, 22 years old. The team is like $100,000 in debt. The bus company has kicked us to the curb. They won't even drive us anywhere. And I'm just like, what am I doing with my life? And, you know, eventually through all of that, Coach Bischel ended up taking me onto his staff as his director of operations last year. And really the glue between that was his volunteer, Tom Winsky. By the way, Runes, Tom Winsky will be the most interesting guest you can ever get on this show. He doesn't know how to do Zoom or any of this stuff. So somebody's going to have to help him, but I can do that.
We got to do it.
So I spent the year there at Central and just learned so much from Coach Bischel and that whole staff. And I honestly had a clipboard out every single day, just kind of writing down everything that I was noticing. And then this summer came around and the opportunity came. You know, I had interviewed at a number of volunteer positions, and I was being pretty picky because obviously Coach Bischel, that guy's going to be a Power 5 coach at some point here very, very soon.
Sure.
So, and he made a huge push to keep me around, and I was kind of torn by this. Like, should I leave? You know, this guy's going to be a Power 5 coach, no doubt about it. So it was a stressful decision, but I miss being on the field and I miss coaching and working in a more direct role with players. And that's why I made the decision to come here. And it was the guys here are awesome, man. The people are unbelievable. Coach Carroll, Wes Carroll, my roommate, Kears Kimball, just the people that you work with every day are so important in this industry. And they're the reason I came here, and it ended up working out for me with
Awesome.
Our pitching coach leaving for Belmont a couple weeks ago.
So cool. By the way, Division III coaches Tim Corbin comes to mind. So you're in good company there, Robbie. You played at either OWU or Denison. I always mess up the two. I can't remember which one. But hey, let me ask you one follow-up question, Robbie, on Coach Bischel, because just watching the regionals last year, you know, CMU, this is the second straight postseason where, you know, in 19 CMU beats Miami down in Starkville. And then, you know, last year you guys, I mean, Notre Dame was incredible, but you guys made a really loud statement in that regional. And so the thing that I want to ask you about is CMU, Central Michigan, plays such a really cool brand of baseball, but yet there's all the antics in the dugout and just kind of the, you know, like the like 80 enthusiasm. And so, you know, I think the old school coaching is kind of like you're scared of that enthusiasm because, you know, how do you keep it from becoming a distraction? Or so I'm curious how, like, you if you had to summarize it in a couple of sentences, how does Coach Bischel let the players, like, how do you do both? How do you play a really clean brand of baseball on the field, but yet the dugout is just like this circus of enthusiasm?
Well, I'll tell you the best thing that Coach Bischel does is he lets the players be themselves. So, from year to year, one team might not be as rowdy or as extravagant as the other team because he really empowers them to take on their own identity, which is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen in baseball. So that the antics and all that, it's not some hierarchy. It's ordered from the top. You guys have to be crazy in the dugout. It's be yourself and have fun out here. And we understand that we're going to play our best baseball when we're loose and having fun. And that's something that comes from Coach Winsky too. I think he's got to be 60 years old now, but Coach Bischel and I both played for him, and he said, you know what, we may not be more talented, but we're going to have the most energy at the field today. And that was all he ever talked about, was we are going to be the most excited team to play. We're going to have the most energy today, and that's going to win us baseball games. And I started to buy into that when I played for him, and I think Coach Bischel obviously buys into that, and their entire program has adapted that. Like, we are more excited to be at the field than you. And we may not be more talented. Obviously, Notre Dame had our number, but, we were more excited to be there than a lot of the teams that we had played. And it's cool because it allows the players to be themselves, and they get to express themselves, and everyone's different. And it's pretty cool to see guys kind of figure out who they are as people while playing for that staff there.
Yeah, gosh, it was so cool. I mean, yeah, Central Michigan's got such a great baseball tradition. Dave Keilitz, and and just the last two regionals have been so loud, the performances. So really cool. Hey, Derek, coming back to you. Okay, boys, here's round two. Here, let's do this. I want you to pick an area of the game that you're most passionate about: hitting, pitching, defensive position, whatever it is. Pick the area that's like closest to your heart, and I want you to give me your core beliefs in 3 sentences or less. So a part of the game that you really, really passionate about. Give me your core beliefs in that area, 3 sentences or less. Go ahead, DP.
All right. So I work with the infielders here at ISU. This is my first year doing it. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen so far, and why I think we've had some success this fall with the infield, is just like the hardest thing was trying to break the mentality for some of these guys that all errors are created equally, because obviously they are not. The biggest thing is we're trying to get these guys to maybe go after that ball that's up the middle, that they don't want to go after because it's a tough play. And if they feel it, they got to make the throw. And if they make the throw, they might pull the guy off the bag. But I'm trying to get them to think that if that ball goes up the middle and you let it go up the middle, now it's a base hit. The result of the play is still the guy standing at first base.
Sure.
So that's kind of my biggest thing, is like, you're going to go after every ball, and you're going to go after every ball thinking that you're going to make the play. Because even if you don't make the play, they don't get the momentum that they would if it's a base hit.
Love it. Very cool. I love that. Yeah, that's yeah, I'm down for that. Count me in on that. Bridge, go ahead. Core philosophy, area of passion, 3 sentences or less. Go for it.
Well, being around Coach Lee, I've got to go, on the offensive side. And so I think if we're trying to develop a successful offensive player, you have to have the ability to develop a plan and commit to it. You got to build confidence and belief with your preparation in the cage or, in BP. And then when things are going poorly, you got to have the body awareness to make those adjustments. I think good players do those things, and that's how they give themselves the best chance to be successful.
Very cool. Rhino, go ahead.
For me, I mean, mine's definitely on the catching and pitching side. Kind of where I've kind of fallen in love the most. But I think for catchers, my biggest thing is, being able to be an extension of coaching staff as the whole group. I always think of catchers as a family and not just one guy. And everything that happens, they're doing together. For them, it's the biggest thing is preparation and kind of taking care of your body the right way, being able to bounce back, and being able to lead a whole team, pitching staff, and from everywhere they can. And then from a pitching staff, I'm really big believer in attacking and getting guys out in 3 pitches, which is what I also talked to you about catchers calling games. And because I think guys want to go deep and you got to attack. And I think both guys got to be on the same page.
Excellent. Really cool. Yeah, I just feel like the whole catching position is so fascinating right now. It's really, really a cool time to, teach catching, coach catching, learn about catching. So cool. Paul, go ahead.
So I'm a hitting, base running infield guy, but I'm going to talk a little bit, actually, instead of any of those, I'm going to talk a little bit about analytics in 3 sentences. And
Yes.
my 3 core beliefs with those is number 1, play to your strengths. Like, for instance, just as example, if you've got a guy who hits the inside pitch really well, hunt the inside pitch, optimize your strengths. Number 2, practice what matters. So if you're a system that wants to hit the ball in the air, hit the ball hard, or hit home runs, don't spend 30% of your practice practicing hit and runs if you're never going to use it in the game. So practice what matters, number 2. And then number 3, I hate the term buy-in. You're asking the players to buy into your system, and I believe that you need to provide the system for the players to buy into. And that happens intrinsically when you show them the value that you can provide using what you do. So instead of forcing guys to buy into what you're saying, give them a reason to do that. Give them a why. So those are my 3 beliefs in that area.
Oh, that's really good. Hey, I will say, I want to say this out loud for everyone, for all of us on this call. Jeff Pickler's talk at the convention this weekend, when it comes out on video, must rewatch. So good. Jeff Pickler is the son of one of the best junior college coaches in California. Scott Pickler has won 1 million championships on the Cape, on Cape Cod with YD, and now Jeff is a bench coach for the Cincinnati Reds. And his talk on blending feel for the game and analytics this weekend was arguably the best presentation I've ever seen at the ABCA. It was so good. So good stuff, Paul. Thank you. Robbie, go ahead. What do you got for us?
So my areas of expertise, I would say catching is one of them. I was a catcher and I love working with catchers, but I have to say that my passion is kind of relies with bunting and base running. I played in the coldest climate possible. I remember conference championship in Green Bay, Wisconsin in May. It was snowing. So we learned how to bunt. We learned how to run the bases, and that's always been instilled in me. And I had kind of thought getting to the Division I level, like this small ball type stuff isn't as important. We got all these big boppers and whatnot. And in my time at CMU, I learned that it couldn't be further from the truth. So bringing, getting guys to, as you said, buy in to bunting for a hit, and taking an extra base on the base pass, and all those little things that can really win or lose ball games for you. It's kind of how I found my niche as a volley. I always tell guys that are volleys, like, find something that you are passionate about, that you can provide value to the program that we don't spend a lot of time on. So your hitting coach and your pitching coach, they don't necessarily have time to look for the little things. And something I learned from Coach Winsky, just kind of the tendencies you can see on film of pitchers that can translate into huge opportunities on the bases, which guys we can steal on, what are their tendencies, how many looks, things like that. And just there's a lot more film and preparation that goes into base running than your average coach would have the time for. So that's the biggest passion of mine.
Cool. Very good. All right, Derek, coming back to you. Let's do this question, boys. All right, so I want you to pick. This is going to be a characteristic of an opponent. A program you played against, coached against. Hey, maybe it's a program that you've just studied from a distance. Like I often say, hey, I love the way Cal State Fullerton's pitchers pitched off their fastball, even though they didn't throw 96. They really 0-2, they'd go fastball in. Florida State's offensive approach, really aggressive early in the count, fight you tooth and nail late in the count. So that's what I'm looking for is, when you're an assistant coach, you're kind of filing stuff away that, hey, someday I'm going to be a head coach and I'm going to take this characteristic from this program and this from over here. So that's what I'm looking for. It's not the program that you've been part of, a program you've played against or observed, an aspect of an opponent. Who is that opponent and what aspect? So go ahead, DP, you kick us off.
So the first one that comes to mind, and it was last year, it's kind of my first time of being a coach on the field. And one thing I love to do is I love watching opponents BP, because I think that's where a lot of those things come out. You get to see those guys go through BP, and you kind of see what's important to them, whether it be base running, hitting, fielding at that moment. And we went down to East Carolina, and Coach Godwin down there, right, wrong, or indifferent, the way their infielders prepared, they fielded every single ball on one knee, and they held the ball down where they fielded it. So they stopped at their fielding position. And whether you agree or disagree whether that's the right way to field a ground ball, all their infielders did it. That's what they believed made a good infielder, and that was kind of their identity when they were preparing for the game. So I have yet to kind of determine. I'm still young, so I don't have something so set in stone like that yet. But that was something that whether it's right or wrong, I feel as a coach, you kind of got to have something that you believe in. So that's what I kind of took away from them down there at ECU.
It's funny. East Carolina's come up a lot when I've asked this question, and but I hadn't heard that story before. But man, do they have conviction! Like the kids that play for East Carolina, they believe in East Carolina baseball. It's really impressive. So, Bridge, go ahead. What do you got?
Well, I'm gonna go back to Air Force. You mentioned them earlier, and something that's always stuck out to me. And I've in the Mountain West, you played those teams twice a year, so you're getting them six games. And they always hit the fastball better than anybody else I've ever seen. And they'll hit the first pitch. They'll swing at 3 straight pitches. You know, a lot of teams, they say, yeah, well, you get to, 2 outs in a row. No, they don't care. And they're going to hammer it. And it was something that, I think they go on the road somewhere and they'll play some, big time teams. And then they go put up a bunch of runs. And, they have that military background. So they play fearless. But, I think just the fact that they're able to hit the fastball, that sets the tone for the game, and they do it at a really high level.
Awesome. Hey, so Bridge, when you're playing Air Force and they are just, smothering fastballs, if you've got a guy that's dumping in breaking balls, are they pretty stubborn? Like they're going to really they're not going to just kind of chase that off-speed stuff. They're going to really force you to throw that first strike over and over again. They're just going to stay on fastball. Is that kind of how they do it?
Well, I guess their approach is probably just uber aggressive, and the fact that they will swing at the breaking ball, in the strike zone, and they'll hit those too. I just think one thing that stuck out to me was just the way that they didn't miss fastballs. Yeah. And so it's not that they won't swing at the breaking ball, and they're not. It's not necessarily an approach where you're sitting up there going, man, you just dump over a bunch of breaking balls, they won't swing at them. No, it's like they don't miss fastballs. So yes, they'll swing at the breaking ball, and I think their philosophy, or at least it was back when I was playing, was just to be extra aggressive. And if you made a mistake over any part of the white, that they were going to try to do some damage to that pitch.
Gosh, that's awesome. Love it. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, the team that comes to mind for me was Minnesota, who was really good whenever I was at Penn State. 2018 was the year they hosted a regional, but I remember that team specifically that year, like them offensively for me as a catcher was impossible to call pitches against. They were always right on top of the plate. They created a lot of offense. I remember they'd get guys on base and they'd bunt and run and they'd pull their bat back right in my eyes, and it made it really difficult. Always put balls in play, really forced teams to play defense. That was the biggest thing I took away from it. Like for me as a catcher trying to build a game plan, like every guy was really different, but they all accomplished the same thing. You'd attack each guy differently and everything, but they always were going to put balls in play, and they just didn't strike out, which is what made them really good that year. So I thought it was really interesting because, like I said, they had so many different types of guys, but they definitely had the same goal, and they accomplished it really well.
That's all. Yeah, that 2018 Minnesota team, that was an Omaha team that just got a bad draw. They had to go to Oregon State, and that Oregon State team was just a joke how good they were. Yeah. But, yeah, that's a good call. Paul, who are you going with?
So this is my first year working in Division I baseball as a coach. So I'm coming from a D2 NAIA background, and the talent disparity there really matters. The team that comes to mind is the very first series I was ever involved in at the college level. We at Post went down to play the University of Tampa, and they kicked us in the freaking teeth. I mean, it was bad. And I got to talk with Coach Ursa a little bit about recruiting and all. And I think that's the trait of like the really successful programs that continue to dominate at those levels, at any level, is just elite recruiting. And I was blessed to work at Ottawa, where we had, a good amount of some really good recruiting. And we get to a regional and we face teams that unfortunately they had better talent. At the end of the day, like talent, I'm convinced wins out. more times than not. So, but talking with Coach Urso and that Tampa team, especially that 2020 Tampa team, which I'm fully convinced would have won the D2 World Series, that really opened my eyes.
It's so funny. Jack Hawk, who's the volunteer at Harvard, has the D2 background, and he brought up Tampa when I asked this question. And I tried to pin him down. I'm like, hey, what was, were they more offense or, pitching? And he's like, they were just like a bunch of bad dudes in all areas. And it was just like a tsunami from the second we got off the bus. So it was exactly, yeah.
Jack and I worked on the same post staff. We were on the same staff that year. We were both first-year coaches at Post, that 2020 team. So we both went down to Tampa, and we both got our teeth kicked in.
That's awesome. See, now watching Tampa play is on my bucket list now. So that is awesome. I mean, obviously an incredible program, no question. So, Robbie, go ahead.
I would have to go with Notre Dame. I think the job that Link Jarrett has done there is unbelievable. When you get to see him in person, it's just super cool. And I would lock in on their BP. Like the way that they have their BP scripted is unbelievable. It's like their guys are robots. Like they're trained. We're gonna hit 5 straight laser beams to the opposite field. And every single guy, they'd rotate 4 guys through, and it's one after the other, working on simple little things, hitting a line drive the opposite field. And then the way that their players work when they're not hitting in batting practice is so cool. I remember Nico Cavadas, he would take a round of 6 and he would hit 6 over the scoreboard. And I remember thinking to myself, why is that shortstop prep stepping every time? Like Nico's not going to ground out to short. He's hitting 6 in a row out of this place. But, nonetheless, every time their infielders are prep stepping, buying into every swing, every live rep they could get. And that was something that stuck out to me. Was Notre Dame, and really just everything about the way that he runs that program is really admirable.
Yep, that's one of the best jobs of they Link and that coaching staff. They got every drop of talent out of that roster that was possible. Really good. All right, boys, let's do this one. DP, coming back to you. You're going for your next job, and I'm the one that's going to interview you, and I'm going to make some phone calls, do a background check on you. You get to pick the 3 calls. Who am I calling? Who do you want me to call? DP, you kick us off.
Okay, first call I would say would be Steve Holm. I got the opportunity to play for him. I got the opportunity to be his graduate assistant and kind of be the director of operations for 1 year. And then I obviously now the volunteer. So he's kind of got me at 3 different areas. So he knows me pretty well. The other one would be Ryan Copeland. Ryan was was the head coach down at University of Illinois Springfield. We still talk on a pretty regular basis. Great guy down there. And then actually my third one's tough. I had some good coaches in my previous staffs at ISU when I was a player. And then, but I would say probably my third one would be, his name's Chris O'Neill. He just got the job at George Washington as their second paid assistant down there. He was the director of operations at Duke. He was my summer coach in Grand Lake for the Grand Lake Mariners. And we talk on a pretty regular basis, and just the impact he had on me for 1 summer. He would probably be my third one.
Beautiful. Very good. Bridge, go ahead.
Well, we touched on a couple of coaches that, I've played for and coached under. So obviously Jay Johnson at LSU and TJ Bruce at Nevada and Coach Larry Lee here at Cal Poly. But there's a 4th guy that I just want to touch on because he's been really instrumental in my baseball career is Dave Lawn. And, he's an elite human being. And I think he's been to the College World Series with 3 different Pac-12 schools, I think. And, his track record speaks for itself. But I'm just really proud to have been around a guy like him. And I've learned so much from him that, he would be definitely, through, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D.
Yeah, Bridge, you nailed it. Coach Lawn is 80 human being, no question about it. He's been to Omaha in 4 consecutive decades, which is really cool. And yes, one of the very best people in our sport, the pitching coach at Arizona, Dave Lawn. Awesome. Great poll. Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'd say both of the pitching coaches I had at Penn State, Brian Anderson, who was also my catching coach when I first got there, came from Radford before that, and I learned a ton from him. And then Josh Newman, who's obviously still there now and doing a really great job with the pitching staff. And then honestly, any of the coaches here at Kent, the guys that I have here, I've learned a ton from him. My time I've been here already. It's a really close staff. We have a great relationship. And my fourth guard that I would go with would definitely be my position coach with the Blue Jays, George Carroll, who my catching coach, and I learned a ton from him. And me and him stay in touch quite a bit, and I had a really good relationship. And it was definitely cool to have someone like that in my corner.
Oh, that's good. Very good. Paul, what are you going with?
It's tough to narrow it down to 3, so I think in the spirit of fourth coach conversations, I'm going to give you 4 coaches.
Well played.
The first one would be my coach at CMU, or Carnegie Mellon, not Central Michigan, obviously. Claudio Rialsono. He talks a lot about leading from the heart, and that's what I try and emulate in my own coaching style. The second would be Ray Ricker. He was the one who gave me my first college job at Post, hired Jack, hired myself. He's now with the Philadelphia Phillies. The third would be Gabe Grinder, who is the head coach at Ottawa University. That was a real taste of success under him. And the last one would be Jeff Jenkins, who's now retired, but he was the former athletic director and head coach at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology in Indiana.
Oh, cool. And so he was involved in baseball, or he was just the athletic director there?
He was both the head coach and the athletic director.
Ah, got it. Very cool. So you don't want me to call one of your engineering professors? Come on now.
I don't know how much they remember me.
Oh, there you go. That's right. Oh, I love it. Robbie, go ahead.
Well, when I left Mississippi, I was teaching Hill Denson how to use his iPhone. So I don't know if he has yet figured out how to use that thing.
Well,
so I don't know if I can list
he'll
him.
be my pen pal. We'll trade letters.
Yeah, you write him a letter about me for sure. But I would have to put Coach Bischel on there. Obviously, that guy gave me my first shot in Division I baseball. Very indebted to him. Coach Winsky, who's the volley there, for putting up with me for 4 years and never somehow kicking me off the team. And then I'd have to just go with the entire staff here at Evansville. And like a lot of people would ask me, like, why would you leave that situation at Central? Like that thing's rolling. And it was a very hard decision, but if you were to meet the people that we have here, it made the decision so much easier for me. My roommate, our pitching coach, Kears Kimball, is unbelievable. And then our skipper, Wes Carroll, he's been here for a while. But the coolest thing about him, man, is he lets us coach. He's like, I want you to take what you've learned and just do it. Like, I don't have to ask him for permission on implementing this type of bunt or anything. He's like, I want to empower you to be the best version of yourself. And for him to give me an opportunity as a full-time coach at the age of 25, I'm forever indebted to him as well. And just his coaching style makes it so easy for us to work for him, because he wants us to coach. He doesn't want us to do his work. He wants us to coach to our strengths, and it's been really, really cool working for him.
Excellent. Hey, there's a message on the chat here from Vandy Chris. So Vandy Chris, you're asking, is there some type of national network for fourth coaches? And the truth is there isn't, but that's a pretty interesting idea. And so to me, honestly, that's kind of the purpose behind these calls, is try to give these guys some exposure, get to know them, have them get to know each other. But that's an interesting question. I wish there was a better answer, but maybe we need to work on that. So, hey, boys, let's do this. We're going to run out of time quickly, but what I want to do for this last question is give me a player to look out for in 2022 on your current roster. Now, it could be your best player. It could be a player from your position player group. It could be a player that you just really, you thought made big strides in the fall. No wrong answers. Go wherever you want with this. But give me a player you're excited about for 2022 in your current program. Go ahead, DP.
I think the one that's getting a lot of publicity is Ryan Cermak. I think he'll be one of the top players. But I'm going to give a shout out to our just the whole infield group. We had a little bit of a down year last year, but I have a feeling that we're going to be pretty good this year. So I'll give a shout out to our whole infield group.
Cermak plays what position?
He plays all of them, but he plays center field for us. He hopped on the mound this fall, and I don't want to give too much away for what he is, but I say he's mid to upper 90s off the mound as well.
Wow. And he'll be like middle of the order for you guys?
Yeah, he's our main guy.
And he's a pretty physical dude, if I recall from what I've read about him.
Yeah, about 6'1", 210, and runs a 6'3", 860 on scout day.
Nice.
So.
So he's basically a Division
Yeah,
One running
he's a
back who
freak.
just happens to play baseball for Illinois
Yeah.
State. All right, good. Oh, I might take him in my fantasy football draft next year. That's awesome. Bridge, go ahead.
Well, I have a couple of easy answers with our Team USA guys, Brooksley and Drew Thorpe, but I'm gonna go a different direction and Colin Viegas. He's a fourth-year catcher who's put a ton of time in the weight room. He found his way on the field last year, because of his taking quality bats and different things like that. Whether he played left field or getting the starts on the days when our starter wasn't playing. But I'm really excited to see him play, at a full time. Kind of earned that opportunity and, looking for him to have a big season.
Awesome. Go ahead, Ryan.
It'd be our catcher, Justin Mickness, who he had a good year last year and stuff. And I felt like he put together a really good fall, really starting to learn to use the whole field and stuff like that at the plate. Left-hand hitting catcher, really starting to find himself behind the plate defensively, which I felt like gave him a lot of confidence at his whole game all around and not just feeling like he was an offensive guy. So I'm really excited to see him kind of put all of it together.
Where in the order would he most likely hit?
Right in that 3-4 area. He's
Got
going to
it.
be a middle of the order guy, do some damage. He'll be fun to watch.
Love it. Very cool. Paul, go ahead.
I'm split between one of our pitchers and one of our hitters, but as an offensive guy, I'm just going to talk about our hitter since I know him better. Bryce Frederick, BF26. That's somebody who I think is going to have a really good season and just somebody who brings great energy every day to the ballpark.
What position will he play for you guys?
He'll play outfield.
And is he a middle of the order type of guy or top of the order? Or?
He can hit literally anywhere from 1 through 9. I mean, he's got the ability to sort of slot in anywhere, wherever we need him.
And right-handed hitter or left-handed hitter?
Right-handed.
Nice. Okay. BF26. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Bryce Frederick, BF26.
All right. I love it. Very good. All right, Robbie, give me a purple ace. What do you got?
Well, I got two of them. So Shane Gray, he's our ace. He should be, competing for pitcher of the year in the Missouri Valley. He's pretty well known in our conference. But I have a cool story about our catcher, Brendan Horde. He's a name nobody probably knows, but he walked on at Kentucky. He was born and raised in Lexington, Big Blue Nation for life. Like, that was his dream school. And he walked on there, was a bullpen catcher for 3 years, and decided that he wanted to look for somewhere where he could maybe get some more at-bats. And he had connected with our staff through summer ball. And the guy's an absolute stud. I honestly think he could be a professional baseball player. I told him this in the fall semester, and he's so used to playing behind all these studs in the SEC. I don't think he really understood his own full potential until he got to Evansville. And it's been so cool for me to see him take on a leadership role and start to discover just how good he can really be. And it's been awesome to see. And I'm looking for him to have a huge year for us. And I'm happy for him because he works. Everyone says this, but I mean it when I say it. He works harder than just about anybody I've seen. And he deserves a big season this year.
Love that. That's really cool. Boys, well done. I say this every week, and the broken record will continue. It's like I feel like we've been talking for 20 seconds, and we just blew through an hour. It was so fun. One of the things I'm going to do when we hang up later tonight is in our text thread, I'm going to put some books and some podcasts that I really like, and I hope that you would do the same. I think we're all on a leadership journey. We're all we're all a work in progress as coaches, and I'm going to share some of the stuff that's really helped me. I would love you guys to do the same. Some stuff that you've leaned into that you've really liked, and more importantly, let's just keep in touch. Best of luck to you guys this spring. I hope this is the first of many conversations. You guys were great tonight. This was super fun. I want to say thank you again to our presenting sponsor, Netting Professionals. Again, they're incredible people. They love our sport. They've got an incredible product, incredible products, plural. And just want to encourage everyone to support Netting Pros. So that is it. Episode 14 is in the books. We will be back here for 3 more Sundays. We're going to go through the end of January, and then we're going to press pause for the season. And so we will see everyone back here next Sunday evening. Have a great week, everybody.